The Valen ship carried Carter and Laura further into space than any human had ever traveled. The journey was long, but neither of them could focus on the breathtaking views of stars and galaxies outside the windows. Their minds were consumed by what lay ahead. They were heading to the Valan's homeworld to appeal directly to the Concordance, the interstellar alliance that governed countless civilizations across the galaxy. It was a desperate gamble, but they knew it was their only chance to prevent humanity's destruction. Inside the alien vessel, the atmosphere felt heavy. Zinara, who had once been warm and welcoming, now kept her distance. Her glowing eyes reflected sadness and disappointment, emotions that weighed heavily on Laura. She had worked so hard to build trust with the Valan ambassador, only for it to crumble because of humanity's actions. Laura tried to speak with her several times during the journey, but Zinara remained quiet, her responses brief and formal. It was clear she no longer saw humans as equals, or even as allies. As they approached the Valan homeworld, Carter and Laura marveled at its beauty. The planet glowed with soft hues of blue and green, surrounded by rings of shimmering light. Cities floated high above the surface, connected by intricate networks of bridges and pathways. It looked like something out of a dream, a place where peace and harmony seemed possible. But the sight did little to ease their nerves. They knew the Concordance would not be swayed by pretty landscapes or heartfelt speeches. Humanity's fate rested entirely on their ability to convince the Alliance of Earth's worthiness. When the ship landed, Carter and Laura were escorted to a grand hall where representatives of the Concordance awaited them. The room was massive, with towering ceilings and walls made of translucent material that pulsed faintly with light. At the center stood Kyle, the leader of the Concordance. He was a towering being, his form both majestic and intimidating. His presence commanded respect, and the air around him seemed to hum with power. Kyle listened carefully as Carter and Laura explained Earth's situation. They spoke of humanity's struggles, its capacity for both good and evil, and its potential to change. They admitted that the attack on the Valans had been wrong, the result of fear and mistrust rather than malice. They begged the Concordance to give humanity another chance, promising that Earth would work to earn its place among the stars. For a long time, Kale said nothing. He studied Carter and Laura with piercing eyes, as if searching for truth in their words. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep and resonant. "Your kind is young," he said. "You are capable of great creativity, but also great destruction. Trust must be earned, not given freely. If you wish to join the Concordance, you must prove yourselves worthy." Kale outlined the conditions for humanity's survival. First, Earth had to surrender those responsible for the attack on the Valans. Second, it had to dismantle its military capabilities and submit to oversight by the Concordance. Failure to comply would result in annihilation. The ultimatum sent shockwaves through Carter and Laura. They knew the demands would be difficult, if not impossible, for humanity to accept. Back on Earth, chaos reigned. News of the Concordance's ultimatum spread quickly, sparking outrage and panic. World leaders convened in emergency sessions, debating how to respond. Some argued that surrender was the only way to survive, while others refused to back down, believing submission would leave humanity vulnerable to exploitation. General Hayes emerged as a vocal opponent of compliance, rallying support for resistance. "If we kneel now, we'll never rise again," he declared during a fiery speech. "We must fight for our freedom, no matter the cost." Protests erupted worldwide, with citizens divided over the path forward. In some cities, people marched in favor of peace, carrying signs that read, "Save humanity and choose life." In others, Crowds chanted slogans about defending Earth, calling for war against the Concordance. Violence broke out as factions clashed, leaving streets littered with debris and blood. Governments struggled to maintain order, their authority crumbling under the weight of dissent. Carter and Laura returned to Earth with heavy hearts. They presented Kale's ultimatum to world leaders, urging them to accept the terms. "This isn't just about us," Laura pleaded. "It's about our children and the future of our species. We can't let pride destroy everything we've built." But her words fell on deaf ears. Many leaders sided with General Hayes, unwilling to relinquish control or admit fault. Hayes seized the opportunity to solidify his power. Using his influence, he mobilized loyal forces, preparing for a final stand against the Concordance. He believed that humanity's survival depended on strength, not diplomacy. "They think they can scare us into submission," he told his troops. "But we'll show them what happens when you mess with Earth." As tensions escalated, ordinary citizens began to take matters into their own hands. Inspired by Laura's message of hope, millions rallied for peace, flooding the streets with calls for disarmament. Even soldiers started defecting, unwilling, to participate in what many saw as a suicidal conflict. The movement grew larger each day, fueled by stories of unity and resilience shared online and in person. Despite these efforts, Hayes pressed forward with his plans. In a secret facility hidden deep underground, his team worked tirelessly to develop new weapons capable of taking on the Concordance. They believed that surprise and determination could tip the scales in humanity's favor. But their confidence was misplaced. The Concordance's technology far surpassed anything Earth could produce, and their patience was wearing thin. On the day of reckoning, Hayes launched a last-ditch assault on the Concordance fleet. Dozens of ships soared into space, armed to the teeth and ready for battle. Carter watched from Earth's surface, his heart sinking as he realized the futility of the attack. The Concordance responded with overwhelming force, obliterating Hayes's forces in minutes. The skies lit up with explosions as humanity's hopes for victory burned away. In the aftermath, Kale addressed Earth one final time. "You have tested our resolve," he said, "and you have failed. Yet we see potential in your kind. Prove yourselves worthy, and perhaps one day you may join us. Until then, remember this lesson." Hayes was captured and brought before the Concordance, where he faced judgment for his crimes. Back on Earth, world leaders reluctantly agreed to comply with the ultimatum. Factories once dedicated to building weapons were repurposed for humanitarian efforts. Monuments commemorating the fallen Veilons were erected as symbols of reconciliation. Though scars remained, humanity took its first tentative steps toward joining the galactic community. Carter and Laura reflected on the cost of humanity's choices. Earth had been forever changed, its people humbled yet hopeful. Laura continued her work bridging gaps between species, ensuring that the lessons of the past would not be forgotten. And though the galaxy still watched with wary eyes, humanity had proven it could choose a better path, even after stumbling into darkness. Days turned into weeks, and the presence of the Veilons became a constant in Earth's sky. Their massive ship remained in orbit, a shimmering reminder of humanity's newfound connection to the cosmos. For some, it was a symbol of hope, a chance to break free from the struggles that had plagued Earth for centuries. For others, it was a source of unease, a looming threat that refused to go away. The divide between those who trusted the Veilons and those who feared them only grew. Wider Commander Alex Carter spent most of his time aboard the alien vessel, working closely with Zanara and her team. He learned more about their culture with each passing day, marveling at their advanced technology and peaceful way of life. The Veilons were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. They valued unity above all else, believing that cooperation was the key to survival in the vastness of space. Yet despite their apparent goodwill, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't the Veilons themselves. It was the reaction they sparked among humans. On Earth, General Matthew Hayes continued to push his narrative of caution. He argued that the Vaylans' arrival was too convenient, their generosity too perfect. "Why would such an advanced civilization care about us?" he asked during a televised interview. "We're nothing but ants to them. This is a setup." His words resonated with many, fueling paranoia and distrust. Protesters took to the streets, holding signs that read, "Protect Earth" and "No to alien control." Some even called for the immediate expulsion of the Vaylans, demanding that humanity take a stand before it was too late. Dr. Laura Bennett tried to counter this fear by organizing events designed to foster understanding. She worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between humans and Vaylans, arranging cultural exchanges and joint research projects. Together with Zainara, she introduced people to the aliens' history, art, and philosophy. Slowly, she began to see progress. Small groups of citizens started attending these events, eager to learn more about their visitors. But for every person who embraced diplomacy, there were dozens who clung to suspicion. Meanwhile, strange signals intercepted by Earth's satellites continued to dominate the headlines. General Hayes used them as evidence to support his claims, insisting they prove the Vaylans were gathering intelligence for an invasion. His rhetoric gained traction, especially among military leaders who saw the aliens as a potential threat. Behind closed doors, plans were drawn up to neutralize the Vaylan ship if necessary. These discussions were kept secret, hidden from public view to avoid panic. Unbeknownst to Hayes, young journalist Emily Dawson was determined to uncover the truth. After her initial article exposing the nature of the signals was suppressed, she refused to give up. Working late into the night, she dug deeper, piecing together fragments of information that others had overlooked. What she discovered shocked her. The signals weren't hostile communications at all. They were routine updates sent to the Vaylans' homeworld, detailing their progress on Earth. Far from being spies, the Vaylans were simply following protocol. Armed with this knowledge, Emily wrote another article, this one more detailed and compelling than the last. She included technical data and expert analysis, leaving no room for doubt. But when she submitted it to her editor, she was met with resistance. Powerful figures within the government pressured the media to stay silent, ensuring that Hayes's version of events remained unchallenged. Frustrated but undeterred, Emily leaked the story online, hoping it would reach those willing to listen. Her efforts paid off, at least partially. Independent bloggers and social media users picked up the story, spreading it far and wide. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the tide might turn. People began questioning Hayes's motives, wondering if he was using fear to manipulate the public. But then, tragedy struck. Late one evening, a rogue faction within Earth's military launched an unauthorized attack on the Vaylan ship. Using experimental weapons developed in secret, they targeted the vessel's engines, hoping to disable it before it could retaliate. The assault failed miserably. The Vaylans' defenses were far superior to anything humanity possessed, effortlessly repelling the attack. However, the damage had already been done. Dozens of Vaylans aboard the ship were killed, including several members of Zinara's crew. When news of the attack reached Earth, chaos erupted. The Vaylans broadcast a message, condemning the act of aggression, their voices filled with sorrow and anger. They revealed the existence of the Concordance, a vast interstellar alliance dedicated to maintaining peace across the galaxy. By attacking them, humanity had violated the Concordance's laws, risking severe consequences. The message ended with a warning. Earth must take responsibility for its actions or face judgment. Carter and Laura were devastated. They had worked so hard to build trust, only for it to be shattered in an instant. Carter confronted General Hayes, accusing him of reckless warmongering. "You've doomed us all," he said, his voice trembling with rage. Hayes denied any involvement in the attack, claiming it was the work of rogue elements acting without authorization. Whether or not he was telling the truth didn't matter. The damage was done. Laura struggled to process what had happened. Zinara, once a close friend, now regarded her with a mixture of sadness and betrayal. "I thought you were different," Zinara said during one of their meetings. "But your kind is capable of such cruelty." Her words cut deep, forcing Laura to confront the darker aspects of humanity. She realized that the Veylan's offer of friendship had been genuine, and humanity had thrown it away out of fear and mistrust. As tensions escalated, protests erupted worldwide. Citizens clashed over whether to apologize to the Veylan's or stand, firm against perceived threats. Some argued that the attack was justified, believing the aliens posed a danger to Earth's survival. Others demanded accountability, calling for those responsible to be brought to justice. Governments teetered, on the brink of collapse, unable to agree on a unified response. Amid the turmoil, Carter and Laura devised a desperate plan. They decided to appeal directly to the Concordance, hoping to prevent full-scale retaliation. With Zinara's reluctant assistance, they prepared to travel to the Veylan's homeworld, where the Alliance's leaders were based. It was a risky move, but they saw no other option. If they failed, humanity would likely face annihilation. Their journey began under a cloud of uncertainty. The shuttle carrying Carter and Laura docked with the Veylan ship, which would transport them to the homeworld. As they boarded, Carter couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. He knew the odds were against them, but he also knew they had to try. Laura shared his determination, clinging to the belief that diplomacy could still prevail. Back on Earth, the situation continued to spiral out of control. General Hayes seized control of a significant portion of the military, vowing to defend the planet at all costs. His actions further fractured global unity, plunging nations into disarray. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens took matters into their own hands. Protests grew larger and more volatile, with clashes breaking out between opposing factions. The world was on the verge of collapse, torn apart by fear and mistrust. Despite the chaos, small pockets of hope remained. Inspired by Laura's efforts, communities came together to promote peace. Artists painted murals depicting humans and Veylans standing side by side. Musicians composed songs celebrating unity and understanding. Even children joined the movement, writing letters to the Veylans expressing their apologies and desire for friendship. These acts of kindness offered a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark time. As Carter and Laura traveled deeper into space, they reflected on the choices that had led humanity to this point. They realized that the Veylan's arrival had forced Earth to confront its greatest flaws, its tendency toward division, its reliance on fear, and its inability to trust. But they also saw potential for change. If humanity could overcome its fears and embrace cooperation, it might yet find a place among the stars. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges and dangers. But Carter and Laura refused to give up. They carried with them the hopes and dreams of billions, determined to prove that humanity was capable of more than war. Little did they know, their actions would shape not only Earth's future, but also the fate of the galaxy itself. It was a quiet morning on Earth when everything changed. The sun rose, as it always did, painting the sky with soft hues of orange and pink. People went about their usual routines. Children headed to school, workers commuted to their jobs, and farmers tended to their fields. No one noticed the faint shimmer in the sky until it was too late. A massive object appeared in orbit around Earth, its surface gleaming like polished metal. It wasn't just any object. It was an alien ship. For centuries, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Books, movies, and scientists alike had speculated about life beyond Earth. But now the question no longer mattered. Aliens were real, and they were here. Panic spread quickly. as news outlets around the world broadcast images of the enormous vessel hovering silently above the planet. Some people thought it was the end of the world, while others hoped for a miracle. Governments scrambled to respond, unsure whether to prepare for war or extend a hand of friendship. At the heart of this chaos stood Commander Alex Carter, a seasoned astronaut and leader of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Initiative. He had spent years training for situations like this, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of meeting extraterrestrial beings. With his sharp mind and calm demeanor, Carter was chosen to lead humanity's first contact mission. By his side was Dr. Laura Bennett, a brilliant diplomat known for her ability to bridge cultural divides. Together, they represented Earth's best chance at peaceful communication. The alien ship sent a message almost immediately after arriving. It was broadcast across every frequency imaginable, ensuring that everyone on Earth could hear it. The voice was calm and melodic, though slightly distorted by translation software. "We are the Veilans," it said. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and cooperation." The message repeated itself over and over, filling the airwaves with a sense of hope. Yet not everyone believed it. General Matthew Hayes, head of Earth's military forces, was one of the skeptics. A grizzled veteran with decades of experience, Hayes had seen enough conflict to know that trust came at a price. To him, the Veilans' sudden appearance felt suspicious. Why would such an advanced civilization choose to visit Earth now? What did they really want? Hayes argued that humanity should approach the situation with caution, urging leaders to prioritize defense over diplomacy. His concerns resonated with many, especially those who feared the unknown. Despite the tension, preparations for first contact moved forward. Carter and Laura boarded a small shuttle equipped with state-of-the-art communication systems. As they ascended into space, the enormity of the moment hit them both. They were about to meet beings from another world, creatures whose existence defied everything humans thought they knew about life. Through the shuttle's windows, they gazed at the Veilan ship in awe. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a sleek, silver structure that seemed to pulse with energy. Its design was otherworldly, elegant yet intimidating. When the shuttle docked with the alien vessel, Carter and Laura stepped out cautiously. They were greeted by a group of Veilans, tall and slender creatures with smooth, iridescent skin. Their eyes glowed faintly, giving them an ethereal appearance. At the center of the group stood Zinara, the Veilan ambassador. She introduced herself and welcomed the humans aboard, her voice warm and inviting. Despite the language barrier, translation, devices allowed for seamless communication. Over the next few hours, Carter and Laura learned more about the Veilans. They described themselves as explorers, part of a vast network of civilizations working together to share knowledge and resources. They offered Earth access to advanced technology, including solutions to global energy shortages and environmental challenges. It sounded too good to be true, but Zinara assured them that the Veilans had no ulterior motives. They simply wished to help. Back on Earth, reactions to the encounter were mixed. Some hailed the Veilans as saviors, believing their arrival marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. Others remained suspicious, convinced that the aliens' generosity masked a hidden agenda. General Hayes became increasingly vocal in his opposition, using his influence to sway public opinion. He pointed to strange signals intercepted by Earth's satellites, claiming they proved the Veilans were communicating with hostile forces beyond the solar system. Dr. Laura Bennett tried to counter these fears by organizing cultural exchanges between humans and Veilans. She worked closely with Zinara, finding common ground despite their differences. Slowly, she began to see the Veilans not as strangers, but as potential allies. Carter shared her optimism, but couldn't ignore the growing unrest on Earth. World. Leaders were divided, torn between embracing diplomacy and preparing for war. Amid the turmoil, a young journalist named Emily Dawson uncovered something troubling. While investigating the intercepted signals, she discovered that they weren't messages of aggression, but routine updates sent to the Vaylon's homeworld. Her findings challenged the narrative being pushed by General Hayes and his supporters. Determined to expose the truth, Emily wrote an article detailing her discovery. However, powerful figures within the government suppressed her story, ensuring that fear continued to dominate the headlines. As days turned into weeks, the situation grew more volatile. Protests erupted in cities around the world, with citizens demanding answers. Some called for immediate disarmament, believing peace was the only way forward. Others rallied behind General Hayes, chanting slogans about defending Earth from invaders. The divide deepened, threatening to tear humanity apart. Through it all, Carter struggled to maintain order. He received conflicting orders from Earth's fractured leadership, each faction pushing its own agenda. Some wanted him to secure more technology from the Vaylans, while others urged him to gather intelligence on their weapon systems. The pressure weighed heavily on him, forcing him to question where his loyalties truly lay. Laura, meanwhile, found solace in her conversations with Zinara. The two women had formed a bond, united by their desire for understanding. Zinara shared stories of the Vaylon's history, describing how their civilization had overcome similar struggles through unity and cooperation. Listening to her, Laura felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps humanity could learn from the Vaylon's example and rise above its divisions. But hope was fragile, easily shattered by fear and mistrust. As tensions escalated, it became clear that humanity stood at a crossroads. The choices made in the coming days would shape not only Earth's future, but also its place in the galaxy. Would humanity choose diplomacy and embrace the possibility of coexistence? Or would it succumb to paranoia and opt for war? For now, the galaxy watched in silence, waiting to see what path Earth would take. The Vaylons remained patient, extending their offer of friendship despite the growing hostility. Carter and Laura clung to the belief that peace was still possible, even as the shadows of doubt loomed larger. Little did they know, the hardest decisions and the greatest sacrifices were yet to come. Months passed since the successful deployment of the Harmonizer. Earth basked in the glow of its newfound status, but beneath the surface, tensions simmered. The rifts may have been stabilized temporarily, but the galaxy was far from peaceful. The Vorthon and Kalith continued to eye each other with suspicion, their ancient rivalry never truly resolved. Humanity's role as a mediator had earned it respect, but also scrutiny. Both factions watched Earth closely, waiting to see if this upstart species would overstep its bounds. Captain Daniel Carter and his crew aboard the Eclipse were tasked with maintaining vigilance near the former rift zone. Though the largest rift had been sealed, smaller ones still dotted the region, requiring constant monitoring. Scientists theorized that these residual rifts might eventually close on their own, but until then they posed a lingering threat. Dr. Emily Grant remained at the forefront of research efforts, analyzing data collected from the Harmonizer's operation. Her team discovered something unexpected, traces of an unknown energy signature embedded within the rift's patterns. This energy didn't match anything associated with the Vorthon or Kalith. It seemed to originate from somewhere else entirely. Grant hypothesized that the rifts might not have been created solely by these two civilizations. Perhaps another force was involved, one older and more mysterious. Her findings sent ripples through the scientific community. Admiral Joseph Reynolds ordered further investigation, dispatching additional ships to explore the surrounding space. Among them was Commander Ryan Foster, who led a reconnaissance mission deep into uncharted territory. His instructions were clear: gather information without provoking either the Vorthon or the Kalith. As Foster's fleet ventured farther from Earth, strange phenomena began occurring. Instruments malfunctioned, and crew members reported feeling disoriented, as though time itself was slipping out of sync. Similar to earlier encounters, some claimed to see fleeting visions, this time not of alternate realities, but of massive structures floating in the void, their surfaces etched with alien symbols. Foster relayed these reports back to Earth, where Dr. Grant studied them intently. These structures could be connected to the unknown energy, she speculated. If we can locate them, we might uncover answers about the true origin of the rifts. Back aboard the Eclipse, Carter received word of Foster's discoveries. He felt torn between curiosity and caution. Exploring the structures could provide vital insights, but it could also reignite hostilities with the Vorthon and Calith. Both factions viewed the rifts as their domain, and any unauthorized exploration risked being seen as an act of aggression. Lieutenant Laura Bennett voiced her concerns during a strategy meeting. "We're walking a fine line here," she said. "If the Vorthon or Calith catch us snooping around, they'll accuse us of breaking the agreement. And honestly, I don't blame them." Carter nodded, weighing the risks. "I know it's dangerous," he admitted. "But if there's even a chance this could help us understand the rifts and prevent future crises, we have to take it." With careful planning, Carter decided to send a small team to investigate the structures while keeping the rest of the fleet on standby. The mission would require stealth and precision, qualities the Eclipse excelled at under Carter's leadership. Lieutenant Bennett volunteered to lead the ground team, knowing the importance of gathering first-hand data. The journey to the coordinates provided by Foster's fleet took several days. As the Eclipse approached, the structures came into view, towering, monoliths stretching across vast distances, their surfaces shimmering like liquid metal. They pulsed faintly with the same energy signature detected in the rifts, confirming their connection. Bennett and her team boarded a shuttle, descending cautiously toward one of the structures. Upon landing, they found themselves surrounded by intricate carvings and glowing glyphs that seemed to shift when observed directly. The air hummed with energy, making the hair on their arms stand on end. "This place gives me the creeps," one of the team members muttered as they stepped onto the surface. Bennett ignored the comment, focusing on her objective. She activated a scanner, recording every detail. "Stay sharp," she instructed. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." As they explored deeper, they discovered a central chamber filled with crystalline formations. These crystals emitted a soft, rhythmic light, almost like breathing. When touched, they projected holographic images into the air, scenes of ancient battles, celestial alignments, and beings unlike anything humanity had encountered before. "These aren't the Vorthon or Calith," Bennett whispered, awestruck. "This must be whoever came before them." Before they could analyze further, alarms blared aboard the shuttle. Sensors detected incoming ships, both Vorthon and Calith vessels converging rapidly. Somehow their presence had been detected. "We need to leave! Now!" Bennett shouted, ushering her team back toward the shuttle. By the time they reached the Eclipse, the alien fleets had arrived, surrounding the structure. Their leaders demanded answers, accusing Earth of violating the ceasefire agreement. Captain Carter addressed them calmly, explaining their intentions and sharing the data collected during the mission. The Vorthon reacted with anger, dismissing the findings as irrelevant. "You trespass on sacred ground," their leader declared. "This is no concern of yours." The Calith, however, showed mild interest. "These structures predate our conflict," their leader acknowledged. "Perhaps your discovery holds significance for all of us." Despite their differing reactions, both factions agreed to allow Earth's scientists to study the structures, under strict supervision. It was a rare moment of cooperation, driven by shared curiosity about the mysterious energy source. Back. On Earth, Dr. Grant worked tirelessly to decode the data brought back from the mission. What she uncovered was staggering. The structures belonged to an ancient civilization long extinct, one that had once harnessed the power of the rifts to traverse the galaxy. But their experiments had spiraled out of control, creating the very instability that plagued the present day. They weren't fighting each other. Grant explained during a briefing. They were trying to fix their mistakes. The rifts are remnants of their failed attempts. This revelation shifted humanity's perspective. The war between the Vorthan and Kalith wasn't just about dominance. It was rooted in a desperate struggle to contain the chaos unleashed by their predecessors. Understanding this history gave Earth leverage in negotiations, allowing them to propose solutions based on mutual survival rather than competition. Admiral Reynolds seized the opportunity, calling for a summit involving all three species. The goal was simple: work together to neutralize the remaining rifts and prevent future disasters. For the first time, the Vorthan and Kalith agreed to collaborate openly, recognizing that humanity's ingenuity offered a path forward. As plans took shape, Carter reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had started as outsiders, dismissed as irrelevant. Now they stood alongside ancient powers, shaping the galaxy's destiny. It was a daunting responsibility, but one they embraced fully. Far away in the depths of space, the structures continued to pulse with energy, their secrets only partially revealed. Whatever lay ahead, humanity knew one thing for certain: the stars held endless mysteries, and they were determined to uncover them, one step at a time. The prototype device designed to stabilize the rifts was finally ready. After months of collaboration between humanity, the Vorthan, and the Kalith, the project had reached its critical phase. The device, named the Harmonizer, was a sleek, metallic sphere etched with intricate patterns that glowed faintly when activated. It represented the combined efforts of three species, each contributing their unique knowledge and technology. For Earth, it was a symbol of hope. For the Vorthan and Kalith, it was an experiment they hoped would succeed, but one they were prepared to abandon if necessary. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, watching as the Harmonizer was loaded into a specially designed probe. The probe would carry the device deep into the heart of the largest rift, where the energy surges were most intense. If successful, the Harmonizer would neutralize the instability, sealing off the rift and preventing further temporal distortions. But failure could have catastrophic consequences, potentially destabilizing the entire region of space. Commander Ryan Foster paced nervously nearby, his usual confidence replaced by tension. "This is it," he muttered. "If this doesn't work, we're looking at a disaster worse than anything we've faced so far." Lieutenant Laura Bennett tried to reassure him. "It'll work," she said firmly. "We've tested it every way possible. Dr. Grant wouldn't let us go through with this unless she was sure." Foster gave her a skeptical look, but didn't argue. He trusted Dr. Emily Grant's expertise, even if he couldn't shake the feeling that too much was riding on a single device. As the countdown began, the crew of the Eclipse gathered around their stations, eyes glued to the monitors showing the probe's progress. Meanwhile, representatives from the Vorthan and Kalith observed silently from their respective ships. Their expressions betrayed no emotion, but their presence underscored the gravity of the moment. Both factions had agreed to suspend hostilities during the operation, though neither side fully trusted the other, or humanity, to act in good faith. As the probe approached the rift, the Harmonizer activated, emitting pulses of energy designed to resonate with the chaotic forces within. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the swirling vortex began to calm. The bright, erratic flashes dimmed, replaced by a steady glow. Instruments aboard the Eclipse confirmed that the rift's instability was decreasing. A cheer erupted among the crew, quickly silenced by Captain Carter. "Stay focused," he reminded them. "We're not done yet." But just as hope began to rise, the situation took a sudden turn. A burst of energy surged from the rift, overwhelming the Harmonizer's systems. Alarms blared as the probe faltered, its trajectory shifting dangerously close to the edge of the rift. Lieutenant Bennett acted quickly, guiding the Eclipse into positioned to retrieve the probe before it was lost. "We've got this," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. With precise maneuvers, she managed to lock onto the probe and pull it back aboard the ship. The harmonizer was damaged but still intact, its core functioning enough to continue the operation. Dr. Grant, monitoring the situation from Earth, urged the team to keep going. The initial surge overloaded the system, but the harmonizer adapted, she explained over the communication link. "Give it another minute. It should stabilize completely." Carter nodded, signaling for the crew to prepare for another attempt. This time, they adjusted the harmonizer's output, reducing the intensity of its pulses to avoid triggering another surge. When the device reactivated, the results were immediate. The rift began to shrink, its chaotic energy dissipating until only a faint shimmer remained. Moments later, the rift vanished entirely, leaving behind a calm expanse of space. Cheers erupted once more, this time uncontrollable. The crew hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. Humanity had succeeded where two ancient civilizations had failed. They had stabilized a rift and proven their worth as equals. The Vorthon and Kalith reacted differently. The Vorthon's leader appeared reluctantly impressed, acknowledging the achievement with a curt nod. "You have accomplished what we deemed impossible," they said. "Perhaps there is value in your persistence after all." The Kalith, ever pragmatic, offered a more measured response. "Your success proves you are capable of contributing meaningfully," their leader stated. "But do not mistake this for trust. Our agreement stands, for now." With the rift sealed, Earth's fleet returned home, greeted as heroes. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted worldwide. Cities lit up with fireworks, and people gathered in public squares to honor the brave men and women who had risked everything to secure humanity's future. Leaders hailed the mission as a turning point in history, marking Earth's emergence as a player on the galactic stage. Admiral Joseph Reynolds addressed the planet in a televised speech, emphasizing the importance of unity moving forward. "Today, we stand together, not just as nations, but as a species," he said. "Our journey into the stars has only begun, and while challenges remain, we have shown that cooperation and determination can overcome even the greatest obstacles." For Dr. Emily Grant, the victory was bittersweet. She knew the harmonizer was only the first step. Countless rifts still existed across the galaxy, each posing a potential threat. Her work was far from over, but for the first time, she felt optimistic about humanity's ability to tackle such problems. Commander Foster, too, reflected on the mission. Though initially skeptical of diplomacy, he now understood its power. "We proved we can hold our own," he said during a debriefing session. "But we also showed that strength isn't always about weapons. It's about finding solutions." Lieutenant Bennett continued to train her team, knowing that peace was fragile and vigilance essential. "We've earned their respect," she told Carter one evening. "But respect doesn't mean safety. We need to stay ready for whatever comes next." As life on Earth settled into a new rhythm, humanity looked outward with renewed purpose. Exploration missions resumed, venturing deeper into the galaxy than ever before. Scientists studied data collected from the rifts, seeking ways to improve the harmonizer and prevent future crises. Politicians worked to establish formal relations with the Vorthon and Kalith, hoping to build a foundation for lasting peace. Yet shadows lingered. The Vorthon and Kalith remained wary of each other and of humanity. Their war had been paused, not ended, and both factions watched Earth closely, waiting to see how the newcomers would wield their newfound influence. Far away, in the depths of space, faint whispers echoed, a reminder that the balance of power was precarious and that old conflicts rarely stayed buried forever. For now, though, humanity celebrated its triumph. They had stepped into the unknown and emerged stronger, proving that even the smallest players could tip the scales in a universe dominated by giants. And as the stars twinkled above, Earth looked toward the future with hope, determination, and a promise to never stop reaching for the horizon. The agreement between the Vorthon, the Kalith, and humanity was fragile at best. While Earth's fleet had succeeded in forcing a temporary ceasefire, tensions remained high. Both alien factions viewed humans as unpredictable intruders who had disrupted their millennia-old conflict. For the Vorthon, this meant suspicion and disdain. For the Kalith, it was a mix of curiosity and caution. Neither side trusted the other, or humanity, to uphold the terms of the deal. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal for most people. News of the rifts and the interstellar negotiations faded into the background as attention shifted to more immediate concerns. But for those involved in the mission, there was no rest. Admiral Joseph Reynolds worked tirelessly to ensure that humanity's role in the galaxy was solidified. He knew the ceasefire wouldn't last forever, and he wanted Earth to be prepared for whatever came next. Dr. Emily Grant spent her days analyzing data from the rifts, searching for ways to stabilize them permanently. Her team developed theories about how the energy within the rifts could be contained or redirected, but implementing these ideas required cooperation from both the Vorthon and Kalith. Convincing either faction to share their knowledge proved nearly impossible. The aliens were reluctant to reveal even basic details about their technology, fearing it might give the other side an advantage. Commander Ryan Foster, meanwhile, focused on strengthening Earth's defenses. Though the ceasefire held, for now, he believed it was only a matter of time before the Vorthon and Kalith resumed their war. "We can't rely on diplomacy alone," he told Captain Daniel Carter during one of their strategy meetings. "If they turn on us, we need to be ready." Carter nodded but disagreed with Foster's approach. "I understand your concerns," he said, "but if we focus too much on weapons and warfare, we risk becoming just like them. Our strength lies in finding solutions, not creating more problems." Lieutenant Laura Bennett shared Carter's perspective, though she remained vigilant. As head of security aboard the Eclipse, she trained her team to handle any scenario, from sabotage attempts to full-scale attacks. She also worked closely with Earth's military leaders to develop contingency plans. Despite her outward confidence, Bennett couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was walking a tightrope, balancing between survival and destruction. As weeks turned into months, the rifts continued to pose a threat. Though Earth's scientists had managed to reduce their instability slightly, the energy surges still occurred unpredictably. On several occasions, ships near the rift zone reported strange phenomena, time distortions, equipment malfunctions, and even hallucinations. Some crew members claimed to have seen visions of alternate realities, glimpses of futures where Earth had fallen to either the Vorthon or the Kalith. These experiences left everyone unsettled, reinforcing the idea that the rifts were far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Despite these challenges, progress was made. Earth's delegation met regularly with representatives from both alien factions, working to establish a framework for coexistence. Dr. Grant played a key role in these discussions, using her expertise to bridge the gap between vastly different perspectives. Her calm demeanor and logical approach earned her respect from both sides, though she often found herself caught between conflicting demands. The Vorthon insisted on strict rules to prevent any interference with their operations. They viewed the rifts as tools essential to their survival and refused to consider alternatives. The Kalith, on the other hand, pushed for greater flexibility, arguing that change was necessary to avoid future crises. Their willingness to adapt sometimes clashed with the Vorthon's rigid mindset, leading to heated debates. During one particularly tense meeting, the Vorthon representative accused the Kalith of trying to manipulate the negotiations to gain an upper hand. "Your proposals are thinly veiled attempts to undermine our position," they said coldly. "We will not tolerate such treachery," the Caliph leader responded with equal intensity. "Your refusal to compromise is what brought us to this point," they countered. "If you truly cared about stability, you would listen instead of clinging to outdated methods." Captain Carter intervened before the argument escalated further. "This isn't about winning or losing," he said firmly. "It's about finding common ground. If we don't work together, none of us will survive." His words seemed to resonate, at least temporarily. Both factions agreed to continue discussions, though the underlying mistrust remained. Carter knew that building trust would take time and patience, but he also understood the importance of persistence. Every small step forward brought humanity closer to securing its place in the galaxy. While negotiations dragged on, Commander Foster grew increasingly frustrated. He believed that humanity needed to assert itself more forcefully rather than relying solely on diplomacy. When he proposed launching reconnaissance missions to gather intelligence on the Vorthan and Caliph, Admiral Reynolds hesitated. "We're walking a fine line here," Reynolds warned. "Provoking them could undo everything we've achieved so far." Foster argued that staying passive was equally risky. "They already see us as weak," he said. "If we don't show them we're capable of standing our ground, they'll crush us the moment it suits them." Ultimately, Reynolds approved a limited reconnaissance operation, provided it was conducted discreetly. Foster led the mission himself, commanding a small task force tasked with gathering information about the aliens' capabilities. What they discovered shocked them. Both the Vorthan and Caliph possessed weapons far beyond anything humanity had imagined. Massive fleets lay hidden in deep space, waiting to be deployed at a moment's notice. It was clear that neither side had abandoned its ambitions. They were simply biding their time. When Foster reported his findings to Carter and the rest of the leadership team, the mood aboard the Eclipse darkened. "We're sitting ducks," Foster said bluntly. "If they decide to attack, we won't stand a chance." Carter didn't disagree, but he refused to let fear dictate their actions. "We can't control what they do," he said, "but we can control how we respond. Our best hope is to keep pushing for peace while preparing for the worst." Lieutenant Bennett took these words to heart, doubling down on her efforts to strengthen Earth's defenses. She coordinated with Earth's military to develop new technologies inspired by the Rift's energy patterns. Though progress was slow, early tests showed promise. If humanity could harness even a fraction of the Rift's power, it might level the playing field. Meanwhile, Dr. Grant made a breakthrough in her research. By studying the energy signatures of the rifts, she identified a potential way to neutralize their effects. Her theory involved creating a device capable of stabilizing the rifts from within, effectively sealing them off. The concept was ambitious and risky, but it offered a glimmer of hope. When Grant presented her findings to the delegation, both the Vorthan and Caliph expressed skepticism. "You propose to tamper with forces you cannot comprehend?" the Vorthan leader asked, their voice tinged with disdain. "It is a bold idea," the Caliph acknowledged, "but boldness alone does not guarantee success." Undeterred, Grant pressed on. "We may not fully understand the rifts yet, but we're learning. With your help, we can create a solution that benefits all of us." Her determination eventually won over the Caliph, who agreed to provide limited assistance. The Vorthan remained hesitant, but the prospect of ending the rift's instability appealed to them enough to offer cautious support. Together, the three species began working on a prototype device, pooling their resources and expertise. As the project progressed, relations between the factions improved slightly. Shared goals fostered a sense of cooperation, however tenuous. Humanity's role as mediator earned it a newfound respect, though lingering doubts persisted. The Vorthan and Caliph still viewed humans as outsiders, but they recognized the value of their ingenuity and perseverance. Back on Earth, public opinion shifted as news of the collaboration spread. People marveled at the idea of humanity working alongside ancient civilizations to solve a cosmic problem. For the first time, many began to see Earth not as a vulnerable planet, but as a rising power in the galaxy. Yet, beneath the surface, uncertainty lingered. The rifts were unpredictable, and the fragile alliance could collapse at any moment. Both the Vorthon and Kaleth had centuries of animosity fueling their actions, and old habits died hard. Even as they worked together, subtle power plays and veiled threats hinted at the tension simmering below. Captain Carter reflected on this as he stood on the bridge of the eclipse, gazing out at the swirling rifts. Humanity had stepped into a world far larger and more complex than anyone had imagined. They had proven they could hold their own against ancient powers, but whether they could maintain that position remained to be seen. "We've come a long way," Lieutenant Bennett said, joining him. "But I can't shake the feeling that we're just scratching the surface." Carter nodded. "That's the thing about the unknown. It never stops surprising you. All we can do is keep moving forward, one step at a time." And so humanity pressed on, navigating the delicate balance between hope and danger. The rifts loomed large, a constant reminder of the stakes involved. But for now, the ceasefire held, and Earth's future looked brighter than ever.